누나, 왜 회사 와? 아,
Let us see. Let me go to main menu. Okay. Now, whenever you want to load between two different scenes, okay. First thing what you need to do is go to your file, go to your build settings. So this is where you can target for one particular device, build it, and then you can start modifying entire project settings into the another targeted device, and then you can start reworking on the project. So you can twin it as per the requirement of the other targeted platform. So generally, if you're building for PC, make sure you are done with the entire production process, and then once you have reached your alpha, then you start targeting for other environment. So let's say for Android, and then I'll click on the switch platform. So it will switch all the basic settings, whatever Unity is using to set up your project, and it will load it into your Android setup. So, okay, we'll see that later on. No. So basically, when you are building and whenever you want a scene to be loaded, so first thing what you need to do is you need to load different scenes into your build settings. So these are the builds that will be carried on into your final execution APIs. Sorry, let's watch it. One. Okay. So basically, whenever you are loading something, whenever you're loading from one scene to another scene, so we will load those particular scenes into this particular build settings. So whenever you are building your final execution or your APK iOS file, anything for testing out, what happens is whichever scenes are included in this particular scenes in build, so they are only carried out into your final build. Build in the sense anything, exe, iOS file or APK file. So we can load these things, and you can see basically there is an index here which is provided. Now let's say whenever I drag and drop or shift these things upside down, you can see the index has been reformed again. So why does this happen is, so this is something like whenever you are calling a scene, there is like two different ways you can call them. So like next thing is we'll see like how we can actually call them. So let's say I have using Unity engine dot scene management. So this is a basic scene management name which has been declared inside your Unity engine. So this will have all the declarations for loading your scenes. So let's say I cannot. Okay. Let me see if we can connect to your and we'll look at. Okay. Now, so this is my basic scene manager, okay, which is a class which is declared inside my Unity engine namespace. So remember that your Unity engine is the basic core module which will have all these things. So in here you can see, so basically whenever you're loading your scene, you can get certain data depending on which scene you are. So either you can say like you can get like how many total number of scenes that are there or which is currently loaded. So these are the basic events which are there inside your scene manager. So in this, whenever I want to load into a particular scene, we will be using your load scene function. So let me just click it. So this is my load scene which is available inside my scene manager. So whenever you're looking into your unit is documentation. So basically, how do you look at this? So based on your requirement, so they have provided a basic definition. If it matches it, click on that particular method. So it will open up a different web page. So which will show basic declaration definitions. So how do you declare it? So you can see here. So this is the basic declaration. So what is it saying? It is a static method which is declared inside your scene manager. So one way is you can send in an integer. Sorry, excuse. So one way is you can set the index value. So index value in the sense whatever my index is there on the right hand here. And other one is you can send in the string value. So directly you can put in the string value and then you can send for loading. So you can directly send in whatever name we have given to us, given to the scene. So that is the basic two approaches. And so let us see. So this is a basic way in which you can just see like how you can use this particular method. So you can see it is calling scene manager dot load scene, and then they are just sending the parameter list here. Now, the first thing is you need to call this particular namespace up above. So this thing we have done here, so that is fine. Now next thing is you need to call something like this. So let us see. So whenever I want to, I'm clicking that particular button, I can call scene manager dot, I'll call load scene. Okay, now, so let me hover this here. So you can see it is asking, I can send in a string value. So basically one way is I can send in the name of it. Let's say we are in the main menu. I want to load into my game scene. I will call it as game scene. So this will load me directly into the game scene. So let me just delete this. And whenever I click this, I'm coming directly into my game scene. So I'm just loading it. So it is not taking much time here. One minute. Okay. Now, so in here, whenever I click, I'll be loaded into my game scene. So this doesn't take much time, but whenever you are building up game and adding assets, so this time also takes a lot of time whenever you are loading from one scene to another scene. Okay, fine. So generally what they suggest is it is better that you use the basic index values. So let's say game scene. So I'll use 1. So either you can send in directly an index value or you can send in a string value. No. And okay. So this is with your basic loading from one scene to other scene. And let's say I have a basic structure in which I want to put in some data in my menu scene. So maybe let's say, so in the main menu, I'm going to add some text field. So I'll go to input. Okay. So instance concept in the sense, like you are asking about this thing. See, if you have a mic, you can directly speak. Where are you? So, yeah, man. So, like, instance in the sense about which thing you're saying? Like, actually, you'd like to do the same object, particularly. What is exactly instance? Sorry, your voice is breaking up. I'm asking what instance is like when you're like how your is it like a game object or like holds the game object? Achha, this instance you're saying? Yes, yes, yes. Okay. So this instance will hold only your class instance, not your game object instance. Okay. Yeah. So today everybody should write the question. What is the path for the Okay. So this instance is for only holding your script instance, nothing other than that. So let's say I'll just move it to the top. So let me anchor it to the top and then I'll bring it down. Very powerful, but sometimes make the ball more easier than okay. So here I want the player to enter a basic name and I'll provide a basic button. So whenever he clicks that button, so I can take that value and store it internally inside my static singleton class, whatever I have created right now. So let's say I'll create a basic button here, and let's say this is value button, and so I can drop it down of this. You should be clear about this. Then managing, drawing, and blocking. So submit and increase the size of it. So this is my basic value button here. So which is with this particular text field. Now let's say okay. So now let's say whenever he is entering a particular value into this particular text field. So I want basically the player name. So I'll just put name. So save it. whenever player is entering his name and clicking this button, so I should record this name into my singleton script. So for which, what I need to do? First thing is inside my singleton class. So here I'll create something called public string name. And in my menu manager, so as you can see, so there is this submit button which is value button. So I will call it as public void value method and save it. Now, whenever he is clicking this particular button, I need to get the value inside this particular text field. So, in general, how do you do it is, whenever you want to access something, you need to have a reference of that particular object. Now, in UI elements, whenever you want to access something, so let's say you create Unity engine.ui. Save this thing. Now, I want to access something from the text. So what I can do, I can declare something called public text value text. So whenever player enters something into the input field and is going to click that button, which will be executing this value method button, this method. So we'll be linking this method with that particular value button. So whenever he's clicking it, this method gets executed. So how I can load this value internally into this particular string value? So I can directly call in singleton dot instance dot name equals to whatever value is there inside that particular text field. So let's say I'll say value text dot text. So okay, don't worry, like I'll explain it again. So I'll just show you like how you can get access of other elements and get the components out of it. So let's say I'll go to the scene. So let it compile. So my menu manager has been added onto the canvas. So this is my menu manager on top of my canvas object. So here it is. So I'm just going to drag and drop it here and save it. So my particular text is been there on this particular script reference. Now, let us say whenever I'm playing this particular scene. Now, so as you can see, name is empty here. And one more thing we forgot, we need to add that particular method, linking that particular method to this on-click event. So click on drag down, menu manager, value method, save it, and play. So let's say we can add some name, let's say QWERTY. And whenever I click submit, so let us go to the script carrier. So this is empty. Whenever I click it here, so you can see it is been stored internally in my singleton class. So this property value or like variable value which we declared here, we can reuse this particular thing in the next scene. So whenever I click on play button, so whenever I'm loaded into the next scene, so you can see this particular value is still available for us. So I can access this value and then I can start using it in my game scene. So basically your singleton is something which could help you to bring particular data without destruction from one scene to another scene. So that is one way. Other way is with singleton, there is no need to create a particular instance of it, and then you can access the values. So there is already an instance which is available, and you can directly call it using its name and get the instance, and directly you can fill up the values. So this is one way in which you can get the values from one scene to another scene. So whereas what you need to remember is this is not the not in a particular way that you can't have it for like permanent storage. So permanent storage is something quite different and compared to your local storage. So in permanent storage system, you can either use a basic approach. So something which Unity provided is your play prefs. So you can use a play pref and then you can start storing these values. And other way is you can store it in a like an offline file, something like your JSON or XML, which generally they use in companies. One minute. Yeah, so these are the basic things whenever you want to use with your UI elements or like with your basic singleton, you can simply use this thing. Okay, hope I did not confuse. Like any doubts till here, anything you did not understand, I'll explain.
So once explain that text.toString.
Okay.
Singleton.
Okay. So okay, just zoom it up. So this value text.toString. So this is nothing but so inside Unity, like you can see, like I have this different buttons. So I have this particular text component. So in this text component, I want to access this particular property of my text component. So first, to access a particular component, I need to declare a basic type of component. So that is something on the top, so which I declared as a text, and I'm having value text. So this value text is what directly we have given a public reference. So this is giving a reference for this text component. Now, and down below what I'm doing is whenever I'm calling this method, so here what I'm doing is I'm just going to that value text, which is nothing but a text component. So value text, and in here I am trying to access this text component. So let's say whenever I'm running it, let's say QWERTY. So this value will be stored inside my text property of this component. Now I have the component reference. I need to have this property reference. So how do I get that references? I'll use a dot operator, and then I'm using text. So this is nothing but directly I'm accessing this property and getting this value. So dot toString, in the sense, this is like it's available inside your C# as well. So that is what they're using it. I'm just converting this to string, and I'm storing it inside the name, which is basically a string property. Now let's say whenever you want to access anything, so let's say I'll say value text dot, and in here you can see, let's say I want to add the font something here, so I can directly type in font, so I'll directly get the font variable here. You can see font style, font size, and let's say line spacing. So these all are available for us with as we have a reference of this particular text component. I can start accessing whatever elements I want to access inside this particular text component. So I'm just accessing the text, so which is having the value that player has entered, and I'm converting into a string. So for which I'm using toString method, so which is a by default method which is provided by your Unity.NET framework, C#.NET framework. So I'm just converting it and I'm storing it inside my singleton string value. So that is what we are doing with your value text.text. So
ఒకవేళ both number and string కావాలనుకుంటే
both number and
string
అంటే alphanumeric అంటున్నావా?
yeah
directly you can get it using your toString value.
okay.
Okay, and anything else you did not understand? Okay, all understood till here, right?
Yes sir. Yes sir.
Okay, fine. Okay. So one way is whenever you want to load something, you need to use your scene management to load a particular scene, and whenever you want to access certain elements inside your UI, so you can use Unity Engine.UI, and then you can start accessing through your scripts, and then you can modify whatever you want to put in the values. So this is basically what we'll be doing whenever you want to like build some things inside your basic UI. So now let's say I want to store these values for like maybe in a permanent storage. Maybe I want to use a play preps style of usage. So generally how do we do it is, I think I explained this, like I think there were like very few people on the day, so I'll just cover it up and then we'll move forward from there on. Now let's say I have my player name and then I'm getting that particular name here. So let's say I'll just duplicate this. Duplicate again. I'll just move this to, but somewhere here. Okay, this is my player name. This is my player age. And that's it. So let's say in placeholders I'll just this is player age, and this is my country. So these will be similar things. I'll duplicate it. So first thing is age underscore and this is p underscore name. Save it. Now let's go down. Sorry. So this is my basic name here, and okay, we have 3 buttons. So basically, we can just reduce it to 1 button. And let me just delete this. Okay. So here he'll enter, and then whenever he's clicking it, we can just read out those particular values. So I can just duplicate them, and let's say I'll remove this p underscore h and p underscore country text. Let me go to singleton, and I can just, let's say country. Let's say H. Okay, for now let it be string only. Okay, so we'll just read this, push it into this particular singleton, and we'll just store it here. So this is what generally we are doing right now. Now let's say whenever you want to add this particular play prefs into this particular thing. So what does your play prefs concept is? It is nothing but, so something like your tag and value pair. So it uses a tag, and then it is going to use a value pair. So tag and value, it will just store those things internally inside your system. So in generally, so let us say so this is my play prefs, and whenever you are using a play pref to save something, okay, so you can save a particular value, okay, and you can see that down here in standalone player storage location, okay, in Mac OS, okay, it is going to store inside your preferences. So this is basically what your build name, whatever you are giving, it is your company name and it is your product name. So it is going to create a listing. So it is going to put that data in that particular file. And similarly with your Windows, it is going to store in this particular file. With Linux, Windows, Androids. So in the sense, with every particular targeted platform, there is a location that has been provided, predefined, where your values will be stored into that particular location. So this is what exactly happens with each of your targeted platform. So with your player prefs, you can store these things in any of those particular places. So this is with your player storage location, okay? And so this is basically your in editor player mode storage, in the sense whenever you are using a system. So this is generally where your library is there with your basic system. Let's say I can open this in my Explorer and sh example. So this is somewhere you can see that particular file that has been stored. So what does it do is it will just keep this file, and whenever you want you can read from it and then you can write it from it. But there is a basic disadvantage with this method. So what is that means? You can store around particular limited values only, not like you can't store like entire player and his player in the sense in-game players data, like what he has equipped and how many different kinds of items that he collected and he has inside your inventory system. This sort of thing can't be managed using your player pref system, because you can store like 20 or 30 variables using your player prefs, so that is fine. But whereas while you're accessing something, every time you need to have a basic value which is case sensitive. So in the sense, you need to remember every time how you're going to call this particular value. And so these are the basic methods which are there with your player prefs. And one more thing is, this player prefs was there from the initial times when Unity was built. And only thing is that they did not extend this player prefs. Why? Because this is fine when you're using it with small games. So it is fine where you have like certain values for your skill system or like upgrading system or collectibles. So this works very well. But whereas when you're targeting onto like huge number of players or like huge platforms, it's better that you maintain a different framework of storing all this data in the files. So it's something very different. When you're going to see that approach, it's like you can write down entire class of objects or like different classes with all the properties and values, whatever you are using in. So basic difference is that with player prefs, it's mandated that you need to remember the key, whatever you're putting in to call that value. And you cannot store much of the values using your player prefs. Whereas with others permanent storage system, you can write down huge number of classes where you can store like 2000 values, everything into one single class, and then you can push it onto the file. And second thing is, you can work on those parameters and you can change those parameters in the runtime, which will be having a meaningful name and where your key is not at all used whenever you call a value. And other thing is, in whichever IT field or anything, where you will be using a basic string value, it is going to take a huge amount of time. So in here we'll be using a key value pair, so this has nothing to do with that. So this is something like it generates a key value internally and then it will keep it for your value. Whenever you throw in that value, it will give you, whenever you throw in the key value, it will get that particular value of that particular key. So this is basically with your player prefs. So let's say, how could you introduce that into this particular system? So this is my basic singleton, whatever I'm having here. Now, let's say, so this is my basic menu manager, what I'm having it internally. Now, so let's say I want to maintain some sort of player prefs. Okay, so let's create another script. Now, let's say in this, I'm going to store certain values. So as we all know, inside my menu manager, whenever I'm going to click this value method, so at that time, I'm going to push these values into my singleton class, and I'm going to keep it available for my entire gaming system. So that is fine. Now, let's say I want to store these values into my permanent data storage system. So generally, how do we do it is, so something like this. Now, so let me just show the format. So in here you can see basically it is going to store the values. So which type of values it is going to store is, it is going to store your integer value, it is going to store your float value, and then it is going to store your string value. So these are the three values which you can store using your play prefs. Other than this, you cannot store any other kind of things using your play prefs. Like that's what I'm saying. Whenever you are using some other kind of permanent storage, there you can store any kind of data, any kind of structures or classes directly you can store. So that is not an issue there. So basically here you can store an integer, a float, and a string value. So let me just click on get in. So you can see here, so playprefs dot get int, and then you have a key, and then you have a integer value. So even for get string or set float, so just observe the way in which they're calling it. That's all. So playprefs dot get string name and that particular value, and similarly here playprefs dot set float key and value. So up here you can see it is a key. So this is generally the format what they're using. So we'll see like how we can use all these particular parameters. I mean like particular static methods inside your playprefs. Now let's say I'll come here. So I have a player name, player age, and player country. Now, so I need to have a key which is mandate. So let us say I'll just create string and let's say name key. Call it as name. And let's say I have age, so I'll just put it age, country. Excuse age. So these are my basic key values. So whenever I want, I'll just put these things. Now, let's say whenever my game is starting up, so I want to set these values. So let's say now I can, so you can see this has key. So let us see what is this. So basically it returns a Boolean value, okay, and it is a static function. So that is obviously you can see here itself this is static methods. So basically this is a static method. Its return type is Boolean, okay, in the sense. So in the description you can see returns true if the given key exists in playprefs, otherwise returns false. So if you're creating something, if it is existing in your playprefs, it returns true. If it is not there, it returns false. So that is simple. So here what you can do, like let's say if there is no key, so playprefs dot has key. So in here I can check my name. So I'll say it name key equals to false. If it is not existing, then what I want to do is I'll say playprefs dot. So we declared everything as string. So let's say set string, and in here I'll send in my name key. And there is no value, so I am just putting a dummy value here. And similarly, you can use the same format. Now, instead of name, you can use age. Okay, so everything got created and we have initialized some dummy value into these particular key values. Now, I have created keys and then I just created a basic dummy value. Now, whenever my game is running, what I need to do is I need to, whenever this particular load value method has been clicked, I need to send these particular values into that particular script. I mean, this particular place where I need to set those things. So basically what we need to do is, I can say public void save values and let me put it as public save it. So in here I can say string and this is key name value. Now, whenever this particular method is being called, so this will be giving us a key name and a value also. So that particular thing should be saved. So how do you save it is, so playerprefs dot set string and call the key name and value. So these are my local variables, whatever is there, I'm just putting it here. And whenever I'm setting it, I just need to save it. So I'll say playerprefs dot save. Okay, now. And from here, I want to access this particular method. So this is my storage manager. So I can come to the top, public storage manager, storage script. So I did not have a reference till now. So I'll just use this reference. So save values. Yeah, so I have my storage script dot name key and then so I'll just send in these values directly into that particular script. So I can just duplicate them and let's say age, country. Age. So everything is saved in here and we'll just push this values into this particular method and everything will be set internally. And in here, what happens is whenever your playprefs.save is being called, it is going to consume a bit of time because this happens with whatever storage method you are using, either internal or external or any other JSON XML files you are using, or your cloud-based database where you are pushing values. There will be a certain amount of time that is going to be taken to store this particular value. So that is commonly what happens with your basic permanent storage system. So basically you can set it, save it. Once you save it, everything gets updated internally. So that is a basic advantage here. So basically we just used get string, which is similar to your int and float, and we have used hash key, and then we have used save. Okay, so these are the basic things which we have used. So set string also we have seen. Only thing which we did not see is delete all and delete key. Now let's say I have on disable. So playprefs dot save. Okay, so everything will be saved, and whenever I want to delete, I'll call this particular method called delete, so which will delete all the playprefs. So everything will be fresh. So everything, whatever we want, it will be set, and then we can see like what is happening internally. Now, whenever I'm saving something, so I'll just create a dummy method here. So I'll call it as public void print values, and I'll say debug.log, and then I'll say name playprefs dot get string, and I'll be using my underscore name key and age country. So this is age country. Now, so these are the basic values which I'm printing directly from my playprefs storage. So these are the basic things which I have. Now let's say, okay, I'll call it from here. So storage dot print values. So let it compile. Okay. Now let's say whenever I play this, so let's say caps lock QWERTY age 120 country India and submit. Okay, I did not. Acha. So sorry, I did not keep this storage manager instance. So, and I need to place this text. Save it. Okay, I have submitted. So let us check here. Okay, and whenever I click play, so in here you can see it is printing using our debug.log. So whatever values we put into this debug.log, it is printing. Whereas you can see we are not calling it using your variables. Whatever variables are there, we are not using it. We are just calling it using a playprefs.getString. So in here what is happening, it is directly reading those values from the playpref storage and then it is printing up directly. Now let's say whenever I stop this, okay, so you can see whenever I stop it, I have on disable, which is having save method, which internally means that it needs to save whenever the script is on disable. So whenever I play it again, so here I won't enter anything. So let me just click on play. So you can see these values are stored. Okay, so these are not destroyed in my system. So these are already there in my permanent storage. So that is what you can see in my singleton. I did not have any values. So that is not a problem now. I have everything set up internally in my basic storage here. And one more thing is, whenever you are creating a small game, okay, whenever you create a small game, so this sort of approach is fine. So where you have like, let's say, when you create some game like your Subway Surfers or some sort of small puzzle games, where you have a mandate requirement of storing only your score values and upgradation values, or like number of props that are bought by your players. So in such cases, you can use your playprefs. So that is not a mistake, but it's better you shift to your permanent storage method whenever you are building a huge game. So that is like very advantageous. And in here you can see whenever I'm storing it, I'm calling every time the name and putting up the basic key value and whatever the actual value of it, and then I'm calling my save values. So call. So in here every time I'm just calling my dot save method. So whenever you update a value, it's mandated that you need to call your save method also. So setting it and then calling save method is mandated with your basic playprefs. So this is a mandate requirement with respect to your playprefs. And remember, whenever you are saving something and whenever you are retrieving something from a storage point of view on your external storage, so that is going to cost you a bit of time. So that is the reason whenever you play your games, what they do is so this approach is nothing like, see, this is your basic mobile or like any console or any device which you are using to play a game, and this is my basic database, and this is my, let's say this is your permanent storage. Mobile, database. Now so in general case, okay, so you have applications on your devices. So this is your app. So whenever your app is loading, first thing what does it do is whatever data you are providing it here, okay, whatever you will provide internally in your app, so that will be stored directly on your permanent storage internally. Okay. Now, whenever you are loading a screen appears in your scene or something is loading, let's say your player is like clicked on play game and then you are loading him into your game scene. So there it is going to take a bit of time. Let's say maybe 2 seconds or 3 seconds duration. So at the same time, what they do is they'll try to hit your server, form the link, and then they start putting this data directly onto your database. Either if it is a local database or any kind of foreign database also, they'll be putting it directly onto that particular sort of database. Once that is done, whatever your new data is there, that will be again stored onto your permanent storage. Now, and whenever you're exiting, it doesn't have a chance or time to contact your server. So now what happens is, till you form a connection, till you form a connection, which means next time whenever you're opening your application, till that time it doesn't have the connectivity with your internet. So what does it do is, whenever you open the application, it will try to load the data from your permanent storage. So it will load it from here itself, and then you can start playing your game. And back again, everything will be stored into your permanent storage. Whenever you're connected, then it will push this data directly into your database, where you will be storing this data permanently. So that is the reason you can see whenever you uninstall an application, your data will be gone, and whenever you reinstall it, you can see there will be a fresh sort of new game. Whereas for some games, I mean, like nowadays most of the games, they will be storing this entire data onto the database systems, and whenever you install, whenever you uninstall and reinstall again, you will be able to have your unique data, whatever data you created. So that is maintained by your maintained by your application creator. So this is basically what internally happens with your storage process. So why I'm saying it is like, so you'll have a better approach whenever you try to create a game. So you'll have a better hand information that how can you manage some sort of data. So this is basically what happens internally. So this is basically what is required to be known whenever you are using your basic data. Amazon provides some game service which is specifically for storing your data, and they provide their own analysis and data predictions with respect to whatever data you are pumping into their databases. So they'll create solutions based on the data which you provide to them. So irony is that sometimes they'll sell that particular data back again to you, so that you will have a better approach to create new games. So this is basically how we can use our system and how you can put in different sort of things. So this is very basic. So should I share this thing? Like, should I give it as a basic prefab? I mean, like a Unity package. Okay. Like, can we share files in Zoom? Like, is it possible?
No, sir.
Okay, so okay, fine. I'll put it in your WhatsApp group. Scripts, scenes. Okay, export package. 2 scenes. Yeah. So look into these basic concepts. Okay, this is not like the optimized way in which I created it. Okay, so just I want to show like what happens whenever you trying to create a basic simple game. So it's like very simple approach where you start putting things together. So what we'll do is we'll try to get into this basic structure on your programming side, and we'll start getting into a bit more depth into like how you can arrange different things, what exactly happens with your basic collision system, and we'll add those basic elements. And uh, and one more thing is whenever you're creating a game, okay, so basically in companies they'll provide you a basic GDD and you'll start studying it out, and then you'll start uh, putting things out of that particular document. So you'll create a basic structure in which your programming team could understand from it, and based on that you can start creating something inside your games. So what I would suggest is pick up some sort of game, some sort of a simple game, and let's say you opened a game and then you saw, so it has a menu, it has like different modes of game in it, so hard, easy or medium. So you start making points out of it so that you'll have a better understanding about how you can plan your game in sort of scripting it. So that becomes a very handy approach. So if you have time, do it. So put some time into like observing things and then start deconstructing those. So reverse engineer everything. So it becomes easy whenever you are engineering something out for a solution. Okay, so this is like a simple approach. This is not like very hard. So what I want you to do is, so this thing has only two things. One thing is your basic singleton pattern. This is very simple. Should we do it just for the menu system or for the entire game? Like what you want to do it for like entire game? I did not understand.